Chapter 78, Geto's Kink. Gojo never had Infinity on when he was alone with Geto, unless it was to protect him or shield him. He allowed any touch or contact between them, no matter how soft or how painful. Geto was in one of his moods. Gojo didn't mind. In some twisted way, he enjoyed it. Sometimes he fantasized about it, even though half the time it never led to sex. Gojo was laying back on his bed, one arm around Geto. Geto rested his head in the crook of his shoulder, and he had one hand underneath Gojo's shirt, his hand feeling up and down his body. He absently kneaded his fingers hard into Gojo's skin, pinching and grabbing at him. A finger jabbed painfully into his belly button, catching Gojo off guard. Collarbone, his fingers gouging into the hollow. He pinched Gojo's earlobe between his thumb and forefinger. Geto's hand swiped over Gojo's chest. He pinched a nipple, hard. Gojo gasped. Geto was hurting him, but he didn't stop him. These strange moods were few and far between, and Gojo let him have his way when he got like this. Geto's hand clamped around Gojo's jaw, and he squeezed for an agonizing moment. Gojo grunted, his breathing quickened, then subsided when he finally let go. Gojo had been hard for a while. He didn't know if Geto noticed or cared, but Geto was aroused too. He pressed it against Gojo. Geto reached for Gojo's free arm, twisting his skin between his fingers. He slid his body over Gojo's until he was straddling him. He held Gojo's wrist above his head, shoving it down into the mattress. Geto grabbed the other wrist and held it down, fingers digging into the wrist bone. The absent look from Geto's eyes was gone, but Gojo couldn't read his expression. Geto held himself there, letting his long hair fall into Gojo's face. Geto released his wrists and Gojo brought his arms back down. He grasped Geto's thighs, feeling the thrum of his energy pulse strong under his fingers. He wondered if Geto would be able to maintain control. Geto's breathing quickened and he threaded his fingers into Gojo's hair, then clenched his hands, pulling against his scalp. Gojo looked into Geto's eyes. Geto stared back, pupils widening. He collapsed onto Gojo with a strangled cry. Geto had stopped himself from taking things too far. He buried his face into the pillow, resting his chin on Gojo's shoulder. Suguru. Gojo wrapped his arms around him and held him tight, feeling warm under the weight of Geto's body. What does he need from me when he's like this? Is something wrong? Is this just his kink? I'm sorry, Geto whispered. I never told you to stop, Gojo murmured. Then you should teach me a lesson, Geto taunted suggestively. Gojo flipped him onto his back, removed his pants, and practically tore his own off. He held Geto's arms over his head with one hand, pressing into the mattress like Geto had done to him. Geto was a dark angel, his hair fanned like wings over the pillow, his eyes half-lidded, a hint of a grin on his face. It was a seductive expression Geto knew would drive Gojo crazy. Gojo kissed him deep, flicking his tongue against Geto's. He used his knee to part Geto's legs wider and entered him as he brushed his lips against his neck. Geto held on to Gojo tight as he thrust into him. Harder, Geto urged, digging his fingers into Gojo's back. Gojo obeyed. Sweat formed on his forehead and slicked down the hair on his temples. He was trying not to come so fast, but he was so turned on by Geto's aggression, he was going to get there soon. More, Geto begged. Oh God, Suguru, I can't hold on. Please. Gojo gritted his teeth. Give it to me, Geto said. Gojo let go, coming inside Geto hard, body trembling. They lay there, breathing heavily against each other. Gojo propped himself up on his elbows and looked at Geto. His eyes were closed, but he could see tears forming in the corners, kept at bay by his lashes. Gojo wiped them away with his thumbs. He shifted his body so he could lay on his side and keep Geto close in his arms. Later, when Gojo was in the bathroom, he looked at the bruises covering his body and face. Gojo was the strongest, but he wasn't perfect. He didn't want to be. Geto was the only one who made him feel truly human. He wished he could keep the black and blue marks, but he knew they would make Geto feel guilty, and he might not ever touch him like that again. Gojo concentrated his cursed energy, converting negative energy into positive energy, to repair his blood vessels before he went back to join Geto in bed. He wouldn't see it until the morning, but Geto's arms bloomed with bruises caused by Gojo's own hand, and for all Gojo's power and knowledge, they were something he couldn't heal.